Welcome to today's Explainer. We are stepping right into the kitchen for a highly practical masterclass on crafting the absolute ultimate winter soul food. If you love culinary traditions that are rich in history and, honestly, even richer in flavor, you are in for a massive treat today. We're going to break down a completely iconic dish from the Italian Alps, Northern Italy's Grappa Braised Lamb. We are treating this exactly like a hands-on cooking masterclass, focusing heavily on the techniques, the ingredients, and the heritage that makes this dish so incredibly special. Okay, let's set the scene for a second. Just imagine the crisp, freezing alpine air of the Dolomite Mountains. When winter temperatures absolutely plummeted, the local shepherds out working in that rugged, unforgiving landscape needed something deeply comforting, something hearty to keep them warm from the inside out. Now, most people naturally assume that wine is the secret to a good, rich Italian braise, right? But in this harsh, snowy climate, those shepherds and local cooks utilized something way more potent to transform humble cuts of meat into something truly extraordinary. That secret ingredient? It's grappa. So here's our game plan for today's Explainer. We'll start with the Alpine secret ingredient, move on to gathering your arsenal, dive into the step-by-step technique, highlight some common mistakes to avoid, and finally, savor the tasting and serving traditions. All right, let's kick things off with part one, the Alpine secret ingredient. You know, to truly master a dish, you really have to understand where it comes from and why it was created in the first place. The culinary traditions we're exploring today were essentially forged in the brutal, snowy climates of northern Italy, specifically regions like Trentino Alto Adige, Veneto, and Friuli Venezia Giulia. Up there, a hearty meal wasn't just a culinary luxury, it was an absolute survival essential. After long, grueling days working outdoors in the freezing cold, families needed meals that would literally stick to their ribs and bring everyone together around the fire. Answer our star ingredient, grappa. If you haven't tried it, grappa is Italy's famous grape pomace spirit. It was traditionally distilled right after the grape harvest. It's strong, it's resourceful, and it became a total staple in northern Italian households. These local cooks were brilliant. They figured out that adding just a small splash of this post-harvest spirit to their winter meats created an incredible, unparalleled depth of flavor. And don't worry, it doesn't make the dish taste like a cocktail. Instead, the grappa adds this distinctive aromatic complexity that just beautifully complements the rich, slightly gamey nature of the lamb. It's a total game changer. Moving right along to part two, gathering your masterclass arsenal. Any great cook will tell you that mountain cooking requires you to organize your ingredients with real purpose. In the culinary world, we call this your mise en place, everything in its place. Let's walk through this together because these aren't just random items on a shopping list, they're the essential flavor building blocks of our dish. First up, you need 1.5 kilos of lamb shoulder. Bone-in or boneless, either works, but shoulder is perfect because it has the tough connective tissue that beautifully breaks down during a long braise. Next, your classic trusty vegetable base. Onions, carrots, celery, and of course, plenty of garlic. For aromatics, we're basically bringing the mountain forest straight to the pot, with fresh rosemary, thyme, bay leaves, and sage. And finally, your liquids. 120 milliliters of our star, grappa, right alongside half a liter of beef or lamb stock, a bit of tomato paste for that deep umami hit, sea salt, black pepper, and some olive oil and butter for searing. Getting all of this prepped is your very first step to guaranteed success. Which brings us to part three, the step-by-step technique. Now, this right here is the core curriculum of our explainer. I really want you to pay close attention to the sensory cues at each stage, because this is where the magic actually happens. Methodically, this recipe breaks down into 5 key steps. Step 1, brown the lamb. Generously salt and pepper that shoulder, then sear it in your oil and butter until every single side has a deep, gorgeous golden crust. This is where your rich flavor base starts. Step 2, build the base. In that exact same pot, sauté your veggies and garlic until softened. Stir in your tomato paste to cook it out just a bit, then toss in those earthy herbs. Step 3, deglaze with grappa. Carefully pour in the grappa. You are going to hear this amazing sizzle. The goal is to let the harsh alcohol cook off while leaving its fragrant, complex aroma right there in the pot. Then pour in your stock and tuck the lamb back in. Step 4 is the slow braise, which we'll zoom in on in just a second. And finally, step 5, finish and serve. You'll skim any excess fat off the top, reduce the sauce slightly so it gets incredibly rich and velvety, and get ready to plate up. Okay, the crucial number you need to drill in your head right now is 3 to 4. Yep, 3 to 4 hours. That is the time you need to dedicate to step 4, the slow braise. I'm slowing down our pacing right here just to emphasize this point. 3 to 4 hours of covered, slow cooking is the absolute non-negotiable secret of this masterclass. Mountain cooking is built entirely around patience. You literally cannot rush this. This slow, gentle heat is exactly what breaks down that tough lamb shoulder, transforming it into meat that practically falls apart if you just look at it with a fork. Let's jump over to part 4, common mistakes to avoid. Look, even with a stellar recipe, things can kind of go off the rails if you're not paying attention. So let's do a little troubleshooting. By calling out these common pitfalls, I can basically guarantee your success. Treat these as the golden rules of our masterclass. Rule 1. Never ever skip the sear. If you just chuck pale meat into a pot of liquid, your final dish is going to taste completely flat. A deep, golden crust builds essential flavor. That's the Maillard reaction at work. Rule 2. Like we just talked about, low and slow is the key. Cranking the heat to a high boil will cause the meat to seize up and get super tough, and nobody wants that. Rule 3. This one's huge. Allow the grappa to simmer briefly and actually cook off the alcohol before you add the stock. If you trap that raw alcohol vapor under the lid, your sauce will taste harsh instead of nicely aromatic. And rule 4, always rest the meat for 10 to 15 minutes before serving. This lets the muscle fibers relax and ensures every single bite is incredibly juicy. And finally, part 5, tasting and serving traditions. So all that patience, the careful searing, the low and slow simmering, it all leads us to this unbelievable sensory payoff. Let's paint a picture of the final dish here. When you finally lift that heavy lid after 4 hours, you are met with forked tender meat that literally just melts apart. No knife required. It is completely coated in a rich, dark, velvety sauce. And when you take that first taste, you get these beautiful, gentle notes of mountain herbs, the piney hit of rosemary, the earthy sage, and carrying the whole thing is the distinct, smooth aroma of the grappa. It's not boozy or harsh, it's just deeply, deeply warming. This dish perfectly reflects generations of Alpine traditions. It's the ultimate hearty comfort food designed specifically to bring a family together on a snowy, freezing evening. It's literally comfort food at its absolute finest. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I've got to ask you a question. You've just spent hours crafting this beautiful grappa braised lamb with that amazing velvet sauce. What are you serving alongside it to soak up all that incredible flavor? Are you going traditional with A, creamy polenta? Maybe keeping it rustic and simple with B, some thick-cut crusty bread. Perhaps C, sweet roasted root vegetables? Or D, classic buttery mashed potatoes? Think about how you'd complete this mountain feast in your own kitchen. Keep exploring global culinary traditions, keep experimenting with incredible ingredients like grappa, and most importantly, keep tasting the world. Thanks so much for joining this masterclass.